scenario to that audience. Later this afternoon, there's going to be a guy who works second shift at the auto plant. This scenario could play out anywhere across the country. But he's a second shift worker, and he's going to go out and get in his truck and drive to work. Now remember, when you work second shift, you're missing half your kids' Little League games in the summer, you're missing your kids' after-school activities. But this guy's working hard, busting his tail for his family, working second shift at the local manufacturing facility. He goes out to get in his truck, and when he's getting in his truck to drive to work, he looks a couple houses down, and he sees sitting on the front porch there a guy who's drinking a cup of coffee, reading the paper, and the second shift worker knows the guy on the front porch can work, but won't work, and is getting his tax dollars. And he gets in his truck, he starts driving to work, and he's thinking about the guy back on the porch. He turns his radio on, he happens to be on the news station, it's the news hour, and the reporter comes on, the reporter says the federal government's got an $18 trillion national debt, and they have this program that gives money to favorite corporations. This one company went bankrupt, cost the taxpayers a ton of money. He hears all that and remembers the guy on the front porch, and guess what? This second shift worker is ticked off, and he has every right to be. Same time he's driving to work, there's a lady driving home from work. She teaches second grade at the local elementary school. She's driving home now. She like all good teachers, used her job as a mission field. She busted her tail that day, helping her students get the skills they're going to need to eventually and hopefully achieve the American dream. So she's worked hard all day long. She's driving home. As she's driving home, she happens to have her radio on, happens to be on the same station where the same newscast comes on, the same reporter says the federal government's got an $18 trillion debt. They got this program that gives money to favorite corporations. This one company went bankrupt and cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. And as she's hearing all that, she pulls into her driveway on the same street, sees the same guy sitting on the front porch drinking a cup of coffee, reading the paper. She knows he can work but won't work, and is getting her money. And guess what? She's just as ticked off as the second shift worker, right? And she has every right to be. And it's my contention that what happened in this past election, I won't get too partisan here, but I do think it's important to understand this. I believe this. What happened this past election is a lot of people like that second grade teacher and second shift worker, families just like them across this country. A lot of those people said, I'm not even going to go. I'm not even going to vote. Those folks in Washington, they're so screwed up. They don't know what they're doing. They've forgotten me. They don't care about me. I've had it. And a bunch of people didn't vote, but those who did go and vote, I think they said this. I think they said, we know the Democrat Party has forgotten us. We know they don't care about us. They're big government, special interests. Washington's got all the answers, approach to things. We know they've forgotten us. We think the Republicans probably have too. We suspect they've forgotten us as well. But we're willing to give them one more chance. One more opportunity to stand up and fight for regular middle-class families across this country. So we're going to vote Republican. And we won the House and got a record number of seats. We got the highest number of seats in the House that we've had in 80 years. Took back the United States Senate. And our challenge is real simple, real basic. Are we going to remember those kind of families, second shift workers, second grade teachers, and families like them all? Are we going to remember them, rise to the occasion, rise to the challenge, and do things that benefit them? And I think we've got to focus on really 4 things. Let me just walk through these real quick, and then like I said, I'll answer your questions. 4 things I think we've got to focus on when we're thinking about our job. And 3 of them relate directly to that story I just told you. The first one is this. You never lose sight of this. And Joe mentioned the committees that I'm on. We do have to keep this administration in check. I mean, they've done things that I just never thought I'd see in my time in public life, frankly, just as an American citizen. Things we've seen happen with our government I never thought I'd witness. So it's real important we hold this administration as accountable as we can. One of the big news items in the news today deals with the select committee on Benghazi that I happen to be a member of. Is this idea that, elected officials could just delete stuff on the server and not be held accountable. So there's things we have to do. So we have to keep them in check, have to hold them accountable, have to do the proper oversight. But specifically that story I just related to you, 3 things I think make sense for us to push forward and show families across this country we're actually fighting for them. The first is this one. Throw out the tax code and start over. Everybody knows the tax code is a joke. It's time to throw it out and start with a whole new code. I've told this story probably to this audience as well, but think about our current tax system, current tax code. Any tax code on the personal side which says to approximately half the population, you don't have to participate in the main tax, is broken, right? And any tax code on the corporate side, which says to American companies, you're going to pay the highest rate in the world, is stupid. So if you have a tax code that's both broken and stupid, you might want to change it, right? So this is common sense, and again, regular families understand that. The only folks who don't get it is the lobbyists and the political class in Washington, who have all these deals and arrangements and things written in the code to give certain things advantages and credits and deductions. Stop. On the person, let's go to a flat rate or a hybrid, a two-rate system. Let's make it simple. And frankly, you're going to have to tick a few people off when you do this, but if you don't tick somebody off and do something big and bold, you don't get anyone's attention. Right? There was a tax reform bill introduced in last Congress by the then chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Dave Kim. Can anyone tell me what that tax reform bill was about? No, because it was like one day it is. I mean, that's amazing. You watch and you miss it. Usually when you do a big piece of legislation, you get more than one day's news. So you have to be big and bold. On the corporate side, why would we want to, the current plans and proposals that talk in Washington to take our corporate rate from 35 to 25, in the middle of the pack? Why would we want to do that? Why not make it the lowest? You know, this whole inversion issue with Burger King and Tim Hortons and stuff we've been reading about used to be companies wanted to headquarter here. United States of America, the greatest nation ever. Now we've got companies for tax reasons alone who want to headquarter outside of our borders. So, one thing I think we can communicate, and we can do it in a way that communicates to regular families across this country, is start all over, get a tax code that makes sense. But specifically then to the second shift worker and the second grade teacher. It is time to do, I think, two things. First, in corporate welfare. Just stop. This idea that government's going to pick winners and losers and show favorites, and if you're, I call it the connected class, part of these big companies who have all the lobbyists and you're connected to the folks who make policy in Washington, you get some special. That's got to end. We have a great example coming up in 2 months. We have this program, been around since FDR, called the Export-Import Bank. And billions of your tax dollars loaned out to companies, and the idea is to promote export. It's always all programs and agencies in Washington start with these noble intentions and great motives. But the biggest recipient of this is one corporation, actually, Boeing Corporation. I have nothing against big corporations, and God bless them, they do fine, but they don't need your tax dollars to make it in the world. So this is a great example where, and again, all Congress has to do on this is amazing. All we got to do is nothing. Well, the few times where if Congress doesn't act, the program would go away. Imagine that. Because it comes up for reauthorization. So all we got to do is just say, let this thing unwind. The loans that are already out there, let them play out. Just don't renew it. Loan out more of your tax dollars. Pretty simple concept. I think this would send an important message to all kinds of folks across this country that things have changed in Washington. It's time to stop this corporate cronyism where connected folks get special deals. And then finally, this is something that Joe's working on and doing a great job, and we need to do. In our social safety net system, we have to emphasize work. I mean, it is, you think about America and what's happened to our culture. Americans work. That's what we do. There's something just, of special value in that basic thing. And we're now moving away from that. We had the CBO study just a few years ago that talked about Obamacare and the disincentives to work to contain that. Our entire social safety net system has disincentives to work. I did this with the group not too long ago. I want you all to think about the very first job you had. Very first job you had. Where you deliver papers? Where you babysit the kids next door? Were you a waiter, waitress? Whatever. My brother and I, the first job we had, we mowed lawns. We mowed like 20 country lawns. And think about the lessons you learned in that first job, making less than minimum wage, but the lessons you learned there that helped you get to the position you're at today. I mean, and what we're doing today in America, we are robbing people of learning that skill set, those values, those principles, those lessons we all learned that first time. I remember we had a whole pickup truck, trailer. My dad helped set us up. You can use the old truck. I got the old trailer, riding lawnmower, push mower, weed eater, gas cans, toolbox. We look like the Beverly Hillbillies going down the road, right? He said, I'm going to have to get you started, but after that, you got to pay for the gas in the truck and in the mowers. You screw around and break belts and pulleys, you're going to have to you learned a number of important things. You learned to schedule. We had some customers who wanted their lawn, their yard mowed on Thursday because they wanted to look nice for the weekend. And we learned that they would pay a little bit more if we mowed it on Thursday. So guess what? We figured out how to mow their yards on Thursday, right? We're not stupid. You learn to schedule. Maybe the best thing you learn is how to tell people